Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. At least 7 civilians have been killed in a new U.S. bombing in northwestern Afghanistan. The attack comes just one day after reports emerged of massive casualties in another U.S. attack to the south. Today's killings came after U.S. forces reportedly came under fire in Baghis province. Meanwhile, estimates of the death toll from the earlier U.S. attack in Kandahar are ranging from 30 to 90 civilians. The victims were bombed while attending a wedding in the village of Shawalikat. One resident said 37 people were killed.
In this airstrike, 37 people have died and 35 more wounded, most of them women and children.
The Pentagon has admitted causing civilian casualties. It says U.S. forces attacked after coming under fire from nearby Taliban militants. At a news conference, Afghan President Hamid Karzai welcomed President-elect Barack Obama's election with an appeal to reduce the ongoing U.S. attacks on Afghan civilians.
As we speak today, we again had civilian casualties. Yesterday in Shawalikat of Kandahar, we had civilian casualties caused by an airstrike. A few days ago, we had civilian casualties in Helmand, and a few days before that, we had civilian casualties in Wardak province. The civilian casualties must end in Afghanistan. My first demand from the newly elected President of America, when he takes office, is to end the civilian casualties of Afghanistan and take the war to the safe havens and training camps of terrorism.
Obama has pledged to escalate the U.S. occupation of Afghanistan. Last month, at least 25 people were killed in a NATO airstrike on the town of Lashkar-Gah. That attack came less than 2 months after another U.S. strike killed up to 90 Afghan civilians, 60 of them children. Here in the United States, President-elect Obama stayed mostly out of public view on Wednesday, one day after his historic election. In his first major staffing move, Obama has offered Democratic Congressmember Rahm Emanuel of Chicago the position of White House Chief of Staff. Emanuel served as an aide under the Clinton administration and has been a key Democratic Party leader in Congress. On foreign policy, Emanuel is thought to represent the right wing of the Democratic Party. He's vocally backed Israel's occupation of the West Bank and Gaza and its 2006 attack on Lebanon. Obama's transition team has begun to prepare for taking office. The group is headed by John Podesta, President Clinton's former chief of staff and the president of the Center for American Progress. Meanwhile, names are already surfacing for the Treasury Secretary position. Candidates for the post include New York Federal Reserve President Timothy Geithner and Lawrence Summers, who headed the Treasury under President Bill Clinton. Summers resigned as president of Harvard University 2 years ago amidst uproar over a suggestion that women have less innate scientific ability than men. In 1991, while working as chief economist for the World Bank, Summers signed an infamous memo that advocated exporting the pollution of industrialized countries to the Third World, which he called under-polluted. 9 congressional races remain undecided, with vote counting still underway. In Oregon, Democratic candidate Jeff Merkley is expected to win a close race against the incumbent Republican Senator Gordon Smith. Merkley held a 4,000-vote lead late on Wednesday night. Thousands of uncounted votes are expected to favor Merkley, as most come from Democratic strongholds. The Oregonian newspaper has already declared him the winner. Final results are expected later today. In Minnesota, state officials have ordered a recount in the Senate race between Republican incumbent Norm Coleman and Democratic challenger Al Franken. Coleman leads Franken by less than 500 votes with nearly 3 million cast. Coleman's declared victory, but Franken says he'll await the recount. In Georgia, Republican Senator Saxby Chambliss will face a runoff against Democratic challenger Jim Martin after failing to gain 50% of the vote. In Alaska, Republican Senator Ted Stevens appears headed to re-election. Stevens holds a thin lead over former Anchorage Mayor Mark Begich, a Democrat. Stevens was convicted last week on 7 counts of corruption. With Merkley's expected win in Oregon, Democrats will have picked up 6 Senate seats, but will remain 3 short of a filibuster-proof majority. Meanwhile, in the House, close races in Washington State, Maryland, Virginia, and Ohio all could be headed to recounts. On the state level, New York Democrats made huge gains on Election Day, winning 32 of 62 open seats in the state Senate. With an existing majority in the state House, the victory leaves Democrats in control of the state legislature and the governor's office for the first time since the New Deal in 75 years. Meanwhile, New Hampshire has become the first state with a majority of women in a legislative chamber. With Tuesday's vote, 13 of 24 members of the New Hampshire State Senate are women. In California, 3 lawsuits have been filed to challenge the passage of a controversial ballot measure banning gay marriage. Proposition 8 would amend the state constitution to only recognize marriage between a man and a woman. The lawsuits allege the vote is illegal because it marks a constitutional revision of the guarantee of equal protection. The California state legislature must first approve a constitutional revision before one can go before voters. The California Supreme Court struck down a statewide same-sex marriage ban in May. Obama's sweeping victory was widely seen as a repudiation of the Bush administration's policies, particularly on the economy. But at the White House, President Bush tried to put a positive spin on the vote, congratulating Barack Obama and vowing a smooth transition.
They chose a president whose journey represents a triumph of the American story, testament to hard work, optimism, and faith in the enduring promise of our nation. Many of our citizens thought they would never live to see that day. This moment is especially uplifting for a generation of Americans who witnessed the struggle for civil rights with their own eyes, and 4 decades later, see a dream fulfilled.
Meanwhile, Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice made a surprise appearance at the daily State Department media briefing. Rice said she was proud of the vote as an African American.
I'm getting ready to leave for the Middle East, but I did not want this morning to pass without taking note of the extraordinary election last night. This was an exercise in American democracy of which Americans across the political spectrum are justifiably proud.
Obama's victory continues to be celebrated worldwide. In Kenya, the birthplace of Obama's father, a national holiday has been declared today in honor of Obama's win. In economic news, congressional Democrats are reportedly considering doubling to $50 billion the amount of taxpayer aid to struggling U.S. automakers. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi is set to meet today with heads of the Detroit Big Three car companies and the United Auto Workers Union. In Iraq, at least 6 people have been killed and more than 20 wounded in several bombings around Baghdad. At least 30 Iraqis have been killed and 80 wounded in daily bombings since Monday. In the Democratic Republic of Congo, thousands of civilians have fled a town seized by rebel forces in ongoing battles with pro-government militias. The rebels took Kiwanja after a second day of fighting that continues despite a recently brokered ceasefire. Some 250,000 people have been displaced in eastern Congo since August. And Russia has issued a new warning, apparently aimed at the incoming Obama administration. Russian President Dmitry Medvedev says Russia will deploy short-range missiles near Poland if the U.S. proceeds with its controversial missile defense program in Eastern Europe. Poland would host 10 ballistic missiles along with a radar site in the Czech Republic. The Bush administration says the missile system would protect Europe from Iranian missiles, but it's widely seen as a first-strike weapon. And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace.